Hi everyone, I'm Raga Olga De Silva, or Totally Out Now, as you know me. The Indian Supreme Court has accepted several petitions, as you know, to legally recognize same sex marriage. The Supreme Court has directed a five-judge bench to hear arguments from the petitioners on 18th April. While the petitioners have argued that the current provisions are discriminatory against the LGBTQ plus community and infringe on their fundamental right to dignity and privacy, the center has opposed these petitions, arguing that marriage can be only between heterosexuals. Now, there are 20 petitions before the Supreme Court of India challenging various laws, and several petitioners include same sex couples who have not been able to get their marriage solemnized due to the current legal framework. Now, not letting same sex couples marry robs them of their dignity, restricts them from fulfilling their relationship. As we know, married couples get several privileges, as we know: adoption rights, inheritance claims, tax benefit, right to make medical decisions on behalf of each other, right over the assets that have been built together, and so on. In the next few days, at Today with Totally Out Now, we will be meeting some of the petitioners and hear their views on why they want the law to change. Whilst all the petitions are about same sex marriage rights, the petitioners we are meeting today are petitioning for something beyond same sex marriage. The LBIT network of organizations has filed a marriage equality petition demanding the right for queer and trans people to be free from violent natal families and to gain recognition for families of their choice in whatever they want. So today we'll be talking to Rituparna Borah and Chayanika Shah, two of the petitioners from the LBIT network of organizations who have their own views and take on what marriage equality in India should look like. Now, this is a large network, and over time, we will, of course, talk during the conversation about the network. Some of them have petitioned anonymously as well. So we'll discuss with Chayanika and Rituparna why they're anonymous. And just so that you remember, just to remind you, I'm also an intervener in the current same-sex marriage equality rights under the Special Marriages Act. As you know, I'm legally married in the UK, but my marriage is not recognized in India, and therefore I lose all my rights. And as a couple, we lose all our rights when we get into India. So let's hear from the two petitioners. Let me start with introducing the two guests. Chayanika Shah, welcome. Namaste.
Hello. Hi, Raga.
Hi. Let me just give a brief introduction to you. For those, of course, many people are very, very familiar with your work. But Chayanika Shah is a queer feminist educator, researcher, and writer based in Mumbai, my favorite city, with over 4 decades of experience of working with feminist organizations and movements engaged in issues with gender, sexuality, health, and also around civil liberties in general. Two of her most recent books, Space, Segregation, Discrimination, The Politics of Space in Institutions of Higher Education, and No Outlaws in the Gender Galaxy, are published. So please welcome to Today with Totally Out Now. I'm looking forward to our conversation.
Same here, Raga. Thanks for getting us here.
Thank you. And next on our guest is Rituparna Borah. Rituparna, wonderful to see you again. Can you unmute yourself?
Okay. Hello, Raga.
Hi, lovely to have you back again. And Rituparna,
Yes.
let me just give a little introduction about you because, again, I know many people know you, but for those who are not very familiar with your work, Rituparna is an indigenous disabled queer feminist activist with 15 plus years of experience on gender, sexuality, and LGBTQAI plus issues. She is the co-director of Nazaria, a queer feminist resource group in Delhi. Nazaria is a queer-run and led organization, and its mission is to make queer lives visible. She has been part of the feminist and queering organizing in India. Welcome to you both, and I'm so happy to have you both because today I'm really interested in discussing something quite different. We've been talking about same-sex marriage, equal rights, equality rights, but we really didn't wear that lens of beyond same-sex marriage. So I'll start with you, Rituparna, since I've known you for a long time. So all petitions are asking for equal marriage rights. And your collective petition is different. So before I get into a conversation, can you just share what is the petition about?
Okay. Chayanika can add, but the first thing that the petition says is that people who want to get married should have the right to get married. So we are. It's not just same-sex marriage petition. It is called the marriage equality petition, where people of all genders can get married. The second thing that we are talking about is that the Special Marriage Act, which is now in the country, has lot of provisions which are not so favorable to many people, be not just queer and trans people, but also people who are also cis heterosexual. For instance, the 30-day notice period. The 30-day notice period means if so and so wants to get married, their pictures and names will be put up in the DM's office saying that this one and this one will get married. If someone has any objections, please come and tell. So, for instance, I am just giving an example of two lesbian women wanting to get married. Meenakshi and Priya wants to get married with their address disclosed, the address in the Aadhaar disclosed. Will someone has objection? Think about the larger society. Think about the condition of the state that we are living in. Of course, many people will have objections. It is also a matter of privacy. This is one thing. The second thing in the same-sex marriage petition is the thing of domicile. And many queer and trans people, because they face a lot of natal family violence, they come to metropolitan cities like Delhi, Mumbai, Calcutta, and unless and until you are settled in a place for 30 days, you cannot register your marriage in that particular city if you haven't stayed in that city for 30 days. Now, without a 30-day or without even having a place to show that you are living in that place for 30 days, and many queer and trans people, when they leave home, they leave without any documents, and that too because of natal family violence, right? So, and therefore many people go opt for, and this is about cishet people, opt for, Arya Samaj marriage or other kind of marriages, because that's easy. So these are the two things in Special Marriage Act which we are again questioning. The third thing we are questioning is the kind of natal family violence that queer and trans people face. So even if you are in a coupled relationship or you are single, the moment your family realizes that you are a queer or a trans person, for trans people, sometimes you don't have to realize it. Like sometimes you don't have to come out as a trans person. Families know that you are a trans person. There is severe violence, and the kind of violence ranges from physical, mental, social, economic, not having the right to education, um, and there is trigger warning. There is corrective rape, there is conversion therapy, to various kinds of abuses. And from that kind of natal family violence, you actually elope. We are asking for protection against that kind of violence. And now the fourth point is right to form a family. That is very important for us because, for instance, I'm giving you my example. I have severe health issues, and now after my father passed away, I have no one in my next of kin. I have a brother who is not supportive at all, and he's actually violent, I would say. And now, if I fall sick, who is going to take care of me? Right? Many people would say it should be my intimate sexual partner. But before my intimate sexual partner, I have had many friends who have always been with me um, through thick and thin, and always supported me for more than she has been with me, financially, socially, emotionally, mentally, and those are my families. And she wouldn't be able to take responsibility or decisions without consulting them, and it would be unfair on her to give uh, take so much responsibility that should she take out the plug. And it would be also unfair on my friends to put them on the category of the friends, saying that they are just my friends. No, they're not my friends because they are my family. They have been with me through thick and thin. So that's the thing that we are talking about, that many people who choose not to get married or would be single, does that mean that only married people will have the right to form family? And according to many principles, for example, the Jog Jagata principle also says that everyone has the right to form family, and therefore we are arguing for a right to form family, despite you are married or not married. That's what our petition talks about.
Sure. Brilliant. And
Chainika,
thanks.
your answer.
Sure. Yeah. So thanks, Rituparna. I think that's given us a lot of clarity. And there are certain points that I will come back to you on, which I have some questions on as well, some doubts as well. Yeah. But Janika, there's anything you want to add to this?
Yeah, I just wanted to add to what Ritu said, that one of the things that we are taking as a ground, the entry point for this petition is about the violence that people face when they come out as queerans, whether or not they find partners or whatever. That there is a natal family that does not accept them, that does not allow them to access their queer and trans selves, that actively works in preventing that from happening. And and somehow, uh, unless this person decides to get married, there is no way in which this person can say that I don't want this family to be my family. So a violent family, without your consent, without your, I mean, this is the law of the land, that the only way that you can exit this family that's been given to you at birth, which in legal language would be called the de facto de jure family, that stays with you unless and until you get married. So, in some sense, actually, the question for us is around the question of family itself, right? That there are multiple ways of living, there are multiple ways of being, and just restricting that the only way that you can exit this is through a monogamous coupledom called marriage is probably not the reality of queer trans people. And like Ritu said, that as we live our lives, we may have partners, we may not have partners. We do have, however, a set of people who become our people, who become the people who understand us, who know what is happening in our lives. And even if I don't leave my family home and move out, I leave it in different ways. I leave it in the way that I'm unable to talk to them about my life. I'm unable to relate to them what is it that concerns me, and they in turn, even if they are accepting to an extent, they are tolerant of me at best. They do not take the trouble to understand that my life may be a totally different landscape. And it's, so one is the absolutely violent families, and there is no dearth of them. Let's recognize it, and we can talk about it later.
Sure.
But I'm saying that even when you don't have a very violent family, you have a supposedly understanding family that is also usually a cis heterosexual family. It has a way of understanding what family means, what the parent child bond or what the sibling bond is supposed to mean. Maybe today some of us are thinking about those bonds differently. Maybe we're thinking of redefining those bonds. And so, so if there are so many people who are living like this, and I believe that a lot of cis heterosexual people also live their lives in multiple ways, even if they hide behind this thing of marriage, there are many ways that people are living their lives. So far, we've never recognized those other ways of being. It may be recognized as this the second wife, or the person who has come into this person's life after the first marriage. That's not how we want to talk about it. We want to talk about it as something that we choose. We choose to make different ways of living, and that is something that we are asking the state to recognize.
Sure.
And in that, the one prayer that we have, and which is not really out of the way, but drawing from the Mental Health Care Act that India has, in which there is a provision which has come in, and this is in the last few years, that decisions around my mental health care, if I am not in a position to take that, I can prior, I can, right now, I should appoint somebody who I think will take that decision. And that somebody does not have to be my family by blood or marriage. I think that is a point that we are taking forward. That
Sure.
if you can do it in mental health care, you can do it in many other domains. And for us, it means that you're saying that there can be ways of living, making families that are different from those that we have known thus far, which is the blood and marriage.
This is a very interesting point you've raised, and going to come back to that to elaborate on that a bit because I've been married before to a man, so I've lived a heterosexual life, so to say. I have say life has been different for me as a woman married to a man, completely different. The respect, the dignity that the title gives you, we cannot really ignore that. And then I've been now married to a woman. Of course, it took me 15 years to finally decide to marry because I felt that marriage was not required. It was patriarchal. It was a structure that we all wanted to get rid of. It confined you within certain boundaries, and it kind of kept you from really growing. It was very limiting, I felt. But certain situation in our life, again, like I said, we will talk about that later. But during that time, one of the things, Chayanika, I realized that there is a difference between living a life, a heterosexual life. It's a very different life, and living the life that I lead now. Although it seems that I live a really good life because I'm London based, it is not so at all, because I do frequently go back home to India. And while my family is not violent or aggressive towards me, but there is a certain way violence is also shown in the form of denial, in the form of ignoring your family, in the form of not talking to you. And that is also, I feel, abuse. So I understand where you're coming from. But my question to you is, why are we talking about marriage anyway? Why are we not petitioning and saying that, you know what, marriage is great? I'm also one of the interveners, by the way. I'm fighting for marriage rights. But I'm saying that why haven't we collectively come back and said, actually, this marriage is not working for us anymore. What we need is this open life, a life, because our lives are different. So, Janik, I'll go start with you, and then Rituparna, if you can extend.
So I think that for us, a lot of people, I mean, I think we live in a country and a society where marriage has primacy beyond everything else. And so, a lot of people who come to us, who are also queer and trans, who are also living lives multiply. I don't think that when a person runs away at age 20 or 21 with another person who's around the same age or maybe a couple of years older, younger, they are thinking of permanence, but they are definitely thinking of saying that I want recognition for this partnership. I want the state to recognize, and I tell you where this is coming to my mind, that the stories that we've heard over the years of people running away, going to a police station, saying, get us married, going to a deputy magistrate, saying, get us married, going to the high court, saying, get us married. So, this is also a queer trans voice. It's not for me to negate that voice. But how do I read that voice is the question that I would like to place here. I read that voice as saying that my family is not recognizing me. My community is not recognizing me. I'm running away not only from my family, I'm running away from this community bonds that would help me survive in this world. So now, who do I go to? Who do I go to if not family and community? I go to a state. This is our understanding of the state. The state has, by decriminalizing, by recognizing transgender people, has said that it's all right to be queer, it's all right to be trans. Now, having said that, we feel it is the responsibility of the state to recognize and protect our right to make relationships of our choice. And I look at marriage as one option amongst many. And that is an option that some people may choose. But I cannot, I mean, that's why we could not restrict it only to marriage. We find it as important. And the last point I want to make is that I wish there was a whole scale rejection of marriage, right? I wish that heterosexual people who already have the right had over the years discarded marriage as an institution. I think putting the onus of this, that I don't want to get married on the most marginalized is actually denying them their rights. And so also I will stand here as a person who Myself, I will not get married. I will definitely not get married in this manner. But I will still stand by whoever wants to get married, who's been denied the right to get married. So it is like Ritu said earlier, it is that everybody should have a right. If it is a right and it is a right which gives privilege, as you said, then yes, that right has to extend to everybody. All of us together should work towards
Yeah.
bringing down that institution. That is the work that all of us are invested in. It is not the business of that young person, 21-year-old, beaten up at home, running away with their partner. It's not their cross to bear. That they will say now, okay, I will not even get married, I will not ask for any recognition, I will live in this world just like this.
You know,
For them it's actually security, and that
this
I
is
want.
brilliantly said, because you spoke about security, recognition, protection, all the three boxes that I ticked when I made that decision finally. And that is why, Ritupurna, because I remember we had a very, very short conversation about this a couple of weeks ago. And we talked about this. We talked about, and I heard one of your sessions where you talked about discrimination exists, bullying exists, violence exists. So do you think, when we petition for something like this, and if laws are in place, it will protect us, it will give us that protection?
It, I don't know if it will give protection, and then I'm not sure if it will give protection because there's so many laws in place. And I'll give you the example of protection of women against domestic violence. And it, to certain extent, it has given, and to certain extent, the police has started recognizing the fact that the husband beats the wife and the husband is an abusive person. And now when we go to the police and complain that there is natal family violence and the parents are beating up or violating the children, they will say the husband can beat up but parents can't. So maybe in many years they will start recognizing the fact that maybe the husband will sorry, the parents violate the children, or and it also depends on how it is being implemented, no, just the judgment coming up. For example, we had the Nalsa judgment, and the Supreme Court gave the notice to the government that the Nalsa judgment should be implemented, and gave some directives to the government to be implemented within 6 months. It was not implemented. So the fact that just because we have a judgment, we don't know if it will be implemented or not. And we also know the response of the government with regard to um, uh, marriage equality petitions. Um, Therefore, it is a 50-50 situation. But what it will give, what happened after Section 377 was decriminalized? After Section 377 was decriminalized, even though lesbian women's sex was not decriminalized, but many lesbian women called us on our helpline and said that now that lesbian women are free, we want to run away and help us elope. And many lesbian women came out during that time from their violent homes, and they came to Delhi to stay together. So it also gives a certain courage or strength to people saying that. And it's just a judgment, it won't even be a law. Just the judgment might give some sort of strength for people to come out and say this. And I just want to add what Chayanika told about marriage, that sometime back, long time back, there is a feminist India list, and some of the cishet feminists who are who told the queer feminists that why are you fighting for marriage. And one thing that I said was that people, cishet feminists who are married, should not talk about marriage at all, because I have not been attending marriages for a very, very long time. Cishet marriages for a very long time. because of the fact that I realized that marriage is patriarchal. And I have been getting invitations from very progressive cishet feminists, very, very progressive. They say they want to do some rituals, some progressive rituals. For me, progressive, non progressive, traditional rituals, non traditional rituals, everything is same. Marriage is marriage. I don't care. So for me, so I have not been attending for, but I have actually attended marriages where it is an interfaith couple, for example, because they have challenged the institution of religion. I've started attending marriages of intercaste couples where the families have started, you know, are against them and might kill them in the name of honor. I have attended marriages of a trans man and a cis woman where families are after them to kill them. So I have also taken a stand where you see that there is a danger to their lives and they are actually breaking norms. So as Chayanika has said that yes, we want to demolish marriage, but it should not rely on this minority people who are actually one. And also raga, love is something that we all aspire for. We have seen all the films where everything ends up in marriage, and the idea of love is so much there that we love one person, you know, pyar ek se, you know, the whole thing of pyar ek se, or you know, shadi bhi ek se, or this thing ek se, you know, I remember the dialogue. This dialogue
जिंदगी
is
में
so much
प्यार एक बार होता है, सिर्फ एक बार.
yeah, I know. These whole dialogues and all are so much ingrained in young people, and I remember myself that I never thought I'll fall in love so many times. I've had so many breakups and love and breakups and love. And then you actually realize that no, love is really like shit. It really breaks your heart and it is a difficult thing. So young people running away for the sake of love is also because of how Bollywood or Hollywood has portrayed love.
Sure,
And
sure.
they definitely want to get married. And it's
Yeah,
okay.
yeah. No, exactly. I mean, the whole romanticization of love and marriage also. I mean, they don't show what happened after Shah Rukh Khan got married to whoever. I don't know whether he chose Kajol or Rani Mukherjee in that film, but that part we don't see because that's very different life after that. But I'm going to touch upon something maybe a little sensitive and a little touchy, but I want to talk to Jenica about that because this is like, is this whole institution of marriage that we're talking about, whether it is gay marriages or whether it is heterosexual marriages, how much of a role does caste and class play in India in particular? And that is why I said the challenges of India are quite unique to the world. In UK, in New Zealand, I've lived in New Zealand for many years. I've been living in UK for 10 years, and it's quite different. It started with the similar challenges, the overturning of what we have, the Section 377, and over time, then people fought for same-sex marriage rights, and then in some countries they gave civil marriage as an option first, then marriage came. So, but our country is very, very complex. So, in this environment, just tell me about how much role does, of course, class and caste play, first of all?
It does play a role in the sense that, see, if I am moving in a circle of people who are like me, which is the situation in India today, at least for the more privileged people, they move in a caste class circle which is of people like them. I don't have the opportunity to meet other people. I don't make that effort to meet other people. At best, I would have met different people when I went to university, which also, as we are seeing the public university system kind of whittle away and people moving to private universities, again, you're finding that the same problem that we encountered as young children, we find in the university spaces. So, if you're talking of the privileged class and caste, I would say that there, the opportunity to meet people from different sections is in itself already compromised, itself gone. But when we're looking at people who are coming from more marginalized backgrounds, we are seeing people interacting. We are seeing couples running away who are from different castes, who are from different religions. When I'm realize I'm queer, and I get attracted to somebody, and there is a response. I probably, and I'm living in a small village somewhere, even in 2023. I probably think this is the only person who is there like me. And this is the only person with whom I can spend a life. I don't know of other people like me. I don't know anybody else. So those connections then go beyond caste and religion. But for families, and we heard these stories, for families, it is simple. They keep shifting. They keep shifting. Sometimes they say that this person is from the same caste, same religion, but it's not from the gender that is right. And sometimes they say, the gender theek hai, we would have accepted, but they're not from the right caste. And this has been a debate, in our queer circles, we've had this debate all the time. That will parents, parents of people like us, say that, oh, thank goodness it is a Hindu woman and not a Muslim man? Or will they say, thank goodness it's a Muslim man and not a Hindu woman? Or same thing if you apply to caste. And we've never arrived at an answer because there is the doubt.
Yeah.
There is the doubt whether caste and religion will supersede gender. Sometimes they might also. And the minute you start replicating the institution of marriage like it is in the heterosexual marriage, where where it is embedded in reproduction, it is embedded in maintaining caste, class, religion, purities. It is the institution is made for that. So if you're going to follow a similar path, then the then the day is not very far. Once we get marriage equality, then we will have parents trying to find the right person for their child. And this is something that's not far-fetched. We've already seen some matrimonial ads that came out which created a lot of furor. I don't want to go into that ad in particular, but
Yeah, but I know which one you're talking about.
I
Yeah.
see a lot of families once they get this recognition. And that's why I feel that for us this petition was important, because the voices that were going to the Supreme Court till in the initial time, later on more voices have come in, but in the initial period it was that, okay, we've had a Vedic marriage, we've had our parents have approved, they are with us, everything is fine. The only thing we don't have is this legal right for calling this person my partner, and hence all the benefits that come with it.
Sure.
That is a reality for some people. It is
Yeah.
not a reality for a large number of us. And that is also what we wanted to bring on board, to question the institution of family itself, actually.
Okay. So,
That
so sorry, go on. Am I interrupting you? Or are you making
so
another
just
point?
one little point,
Sure.
that when it is about this moment is not only about marriage equality. This moment for us, it is about raising questions about the way in which family is being understood in Indian law and Indian society. And both of those we are questioning also.
Okay, great. Because one of I remember before we started this interview, I said I have had some doubt and I needed clarification, because I thought there is this whole conversation about same-sex marriage and equality, in marriage that's been going on, and it's never been heard before. We are all of us are fighting for it, and suddenly you have this group of people, this network, who are completely different thinking, which who are very welcomed, by the way, as I keep saying, like how you're supporting same-sex marriage, I'm also saying you're very welcome, your views are very welcomed. But I thought to myself, is it going to muddy the waters? Are we not going to stop ourselves and think, pehle ek cheez karo na, pehle one step at a time? So what do you think? Rituparna, I'll come to you.
It is not actually going to muddy the waters first. And the fact that one step at a time doesn't happen. And as Chayanika was saying, that the petitioners who first petitioned, um, were mostly upper class people with a certain caste background, with certain acceptance from the family, and hadn't worked with the communities. And the LBIT network that we are part of, and the LBIT network we started, we met first in 2008, and it's not the it just we just met in 2008. It doesn't mean that we just started working in 2008. Some of us, for example, Chayanika and the Mumbai group or the Calcutta group, has been working for ages, like for 30 years. And even in Delhi, some of the activists had been working for many years. So they have been working on issues of gender-based violence and domestic violence of trans people, and also they have been part of the feminist movement. We have been part of the feminist movement. So the fact that, and then we realize that if we can't bring in these issues now, and we realize that, and when we read the petitions, we realized that where are our issues? Like when we are saying that there are um, marriage equality, and we want talking about marriage equality, but since we have been also working on the same issues where couples come to us on an everyday basis, for example, couples come to us saying that the parents have taken them to mental health mental institutions, given them shock therapies, where police have asked people to show them their genitals, where parents have kidnapped them, abducted them to places where we couldn't find them and had to file an habeas corpus case, where actually uh, caseworkers or activists were threatened to kill. The parents have come and violated the homes of activists because we sheltered many of those people at our homes. So these are the stories that we dealt with on an everyday basis. So we are not saying anything which are not factual. So when we read all those petitions, we realized that we also will file for marriage equality petitions, but let us bring in the family violence, because even if marriage equality gets passed, family violence will not get lessened. And one thing I'll tell you, Raga, for someone assigned gender female at birth, I'm really sorry for using that word, assigned female at birth, but for mm, queer women mostly, when you are in relationship with other queer women, parents do not think that's valid sex, and parents actually take away the child and get them married off to some men, because that's not regarded as valid sexual act. So it's very easy for queer women to get separated, and also queer women and trans masculine people get married as early as the age of 14, forcibly married, and therefore marital rape happens almost every day to those people who are married off at the age of 14, and they give birth to a child at the age of 15, 16. And these are real stories,
Yeah.
and we had to bring in those stories. And even if marriage equality comes in, we need to get protection from the families, and to get protection from the families, the chosen families needs to get recognized.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I totally hear you. I'm just like, sorry, and trigger warning everybody. Just remember that the conversations that we have, and I actually shared this trigger warning in earlier as well, because I know we will go into real places, and these are real stories. These are real lived experiences. And Chayanika, and please feel free to elaborate with stories, anecdotal stories, okay? Because I want people to understand the reality. I know we talk about upper class and all that, and Rituparna, I have my own take on that, because I know a lot of us, a lot of people who have filed petitions are from a certain class, but that's another separate conversation as well. But I want to first of all understand, Janika, from you, the LBIT. Like, just as a person, why is LBIT when we're talking about LGBTQIA plus as a community? So why LBIT network? And I know there were four main petitioners: yourself, Rituparna, Malbika, and Maya Sharma. So tell me, how did you form the collective together, and how did others come in?
So I also just wanted to say a thing in response to what Ritu was saying earlier. And I actually differ with Ritu, because I think that muddying the waters is part of the queer story, right? There's no clean family story here. We may appear in court and say, I mean, like Raga, you yourself said that you are appearing there asking for your right to be married, yeah. But there is a story. There is a story behind your life as well, of what is it that you're fighting that forces you to get into that marriage. That story is not coming to the court. That story has to be brought to the court. The story, what Ritu is saying, that the story of violence, that families do on their own children, on their own wards, is something that needs to be brought up, because if we are asking for marriage equality, we also want to shine the light on what kind of families have marriages created. It is fine for this, for Tushar Mehta to stand there and say that we are, marriages between a sanskar. This sanskar has driven many of our friends to death. This sanskar has driven many of our friends to forced migration. This sanskar has forced many of our friends to live with immense amount of mental trauma and mental health. And unless we bring all of that into the courtroom, unless we talk about it, what is the meaning of marriage equality is the question that we wanted to bring. To come back to the LBIT network, as Ritu said, uh, the stories of women, so called, I mean, right now we'll call them women. They could be two cis women, they could be people read as women, they could be transmasculine people and cis women, whatever. Stories of women running away and either getting married or going, like what I said, going to different institutes, asking to be married, or dying. These stories have been coming in the news from, at least in my memory, the first story that hit all of us was in 87, which was two police women in Bhopal, right?
Yeah.
After that, I mean, at that time, some amount of noise was created. We spoke about it, but we didn't really take it up in the way that we have been taking it up since the 90s. Since the 90s, these stories, these people, they're real people. Their voices are appearing in public, but the public is not willing to recognize those lives. It's one story, it comes, it dies off. Another one comes, it dies off. It comes in regional media, sometimes it comes in the national media. We have discovered as we worked, and this is more about people who are seen as women. We've not heard similar stories for those who are seen as men. And I must foreground here also that trans women have similar stories to speak of. They, a lot of them, however, seek support from this wonderful system of Hijras and Kinnars and Arwanis and Nupimanbis across the country and across the subcontinent. A very, very lovely network that has been there to hold people when they run away from their families. There has been no such network for anybody who is running away from their families and who is either a transmasculine person or a cis woman. And these people were reaching out to some of us, or we were reaching out to them after reading the stories. So the network became this network of LBI women and trans people over a period of time. And so it has been catering to this section of people, which is not to say that trans feminine people of various kinds also may face familial violence. Gay men also may face familial violence. I mean, we're not at all saying that they don't face it. They do face it. But the network has been catering to this section of people. And so being, being people who've only worked with this set of people, we brought these stories. So the
Sure.
6 other people that are there with us, 4 of us represent in some senses organizational voices, right? Ritu is part of Nazaria, Malavika is part of Sappho, Maya is part of Vikalp, and I and many others here have been part of Labia for a long time. So it is these voices that we are bringing together. The 6 other people are actually anonymized. They are people who come to us for help. They are people who are right now in hiding. They're right now dealing with this, with the kind of situations that we can talk about, in the sense of the extent to which violence can go. So I think that bringing those 6 voices was important to also foreground that yes, there are these people who need protection, who are looking at the state to provide them protection, or probably looking at the state to recognize the relationship, to recognize the marriage, or whatever way they want to define the relationship. So there are these 3 couples who are anonymized and who are with us. There are 10 of us together, and hence the prayer is for marriage and the prayer is for other kinds of reliefs, of
Sure.
imaginations of other kinds of families.
Sure, sure. Thank you very much. And gosh, that's really it gives a very good insight for us as outsiders, just looking at the petition, saying, "Oh, who's the LBIT network? What do they do? Why is some of them anonymous?" I think thank you for shedding light on that. Rituparna, I was just thinking about this familial violence that we talked about, right? So currently, and I'm just again thinking aloud, and I'm saying that I've heard there is hardly any police protection, because I've also read a whole lot of stories, spoken to people where they say you go to the cops and they first bring the same family back to the cop station who have actually shown violence towards you. So you don't really have that protection. But you think that with the petition that we have in place now, you have in place, you think that will change? And if not, what are the expectations?
Okay, so what happens is that the police, uh, so in some places, some police stations tend to give police protection. Okay, the police protection not in terms of like protecting the couple, but tend to give you a phone number and say that if something happens, just call us, right? But it's very random. Now it's very random because of the work of some of the organizations, again, which in the LBTI network, which has been working for a very long time. Now, as feminists, we don't want all the people to come to us, no. We want people to be able to approach police, and police always becomes the first point of contact. Police, with India, and the government running ad campaigns, for example, 1091 or 100, where anyone can run, call the police, and police is always the first point of contact. We shouldn't be the first point of contact. It it becomes so it seems like the rolling back of the state. So when police when police is the first point of contact, um, then it should be such that the police should know that they have to provide protection to queer and trans persons or whoever comes to them who are above the age of 18, because they have the right to free movement, right? According to the constitution of the country. So now, with the judgment, and if directives are given that police has these and these roles, and it's across the country because it is the Supreme Court, they can give directives to police stations across the country, and when the police needs to be trained on these and these issues, that whenever someone comes, you have to provide protection because of familial violence, then we will not be in the picture, and that's how empowerment happens.
Sure.
And that is the best course of action. um, we are there only when support is required. We are not there for the state to roll back. We are there only when an emergency occurs, right? So with 100 or 109 to run, 1091 to run, there should be such initiatives to happen. Yeah. So
Sure.
with the judgment, we hope that this happens.
Okay, so follow up on that question, Ritupurna. It's like, then in terms of what we're talking about now, chosen families, right? This is what do you expect? So what do you want for the queer people? How do you want the chosen families to coexist with them, and not just the natal families?
Yes. So what will happen if the marriage equality thing comes up? Okay. And only for example, okay, for example, in the bank, so I can nominate my partner. For example, if the marriage equality thing comes up, and then I can nominate my partner, because that direction would be given to the bank saying that they are these and these are married, and you can nominate the partner. But in terms of chosen family, for example, if I don't have a partner and I'm chosen family, then that set of people would be recognized as my family, and I can nominate any one of them in the bank system, saying that that person can be nominated in the bank. And it's also like a living heir where I leave, where I give the responsibility to a certain individual in terms of health, saying that this person and this person will be responsible for my healthcare needs, and not just one person who is my intimate or romantic partner or who is my natal family. And this is how we think of how it will work.
Okay, so I'm just going to interrupt here. Two things here. One is from my own experience. I'm sharing from my own experience. When we had a medical emergency, for instance, in our own family with Nicola and I was told that I couldn't take a medical decision anyway. One, because I was not legally married at that time, and two, because as per the rules, I had to give a power of attorney. Even if I was married, even if I was legally married, there is something called a power of attorney where you have to give a legal power of attorney which is signed, and that is what is produced before the doctors. That's number one. Number two, the kind of things that we like, for instance, again, uh, I had to write a will recently, just keeping the fragility of life in place. And I was told that I could nominate anybody I wanted for anything that I have. So why do we need marriage for that, to nominate anybody? Isn't that something called a living will? Does it exist in India? That's what I want to understand. Janika,
Should
you
I?
want to
Yeah,
respond? Yeah,
yeah.
please.
So actually, you can make a will if you're a Hindu person and a Christian person. If you're a Muslim person living in India and you're a single person, you cannot will away your whole property. You can will away a fraction of your property. The rest goes as per Islamic law. It goes, depending on who are the survivors, it gets distributed accordingly. So, one, that every Indian citizen doesn't have the right to make a will of all their property. That's first. The second is that if I am in conflict with my family, now remember, this is a big if that is constantly over our heads. I may make a will. The will get contested. Wills get contested even within siblings. In this case, it will definitely get contested, and it will go in the favor of the family because the family is, you know, all institutions look at the family as working in the best interests of their family members, when actually it is not so. So, when we are asking for recognition of other people, we are saying that let me register before a situation arises when I am not able to say. So, today also, if I go to the hospital and I am in my senses, I can tell the doctor that this person X, whoever has come with me, is my person who will take decisions for me. And that will be recognized because I have given express instructions right there. But in situations where I cannot do this, in situations where I am not in a position to do this, who is the doctor going to turn to? The doctor is going to turn to the family that is considered my family. So if I have pre-registered, like in the Mental Health Care Act, if I have pre-registered that person X is the person who will take decisions, and if that can be produced by that person in hospital, then the doctor has to look at that and agree to it. So, in some sense, the doctor is also empowered to go with my decision rather than go with the family because there's a legal document. And I think law works only to that extent. The
Sure.
law, to get it implemented, you'll have to fight, you'll have to struggle, you'll have to keep on reminding people that they cannot break the law,
Yeah.
which you constantly find it happening. So right now also, police should actually stand with the adult people. They should not stand with the family. As per the law of this land, they should be standing with the adult person. But when this adult person is also dependent on the family, and let's
Yeah.
remember this also, at 18 people don't become independent, not many of them do, but many of us don't also. We are dependent on our parents to take care of our education. We are hearing stories after stories of parents saying, if you don't do this, I will take off your education. I will stop your education. I will push you into marriage. You don't need to you don't need to study. You're put under house arrest. Your documents, educational certificates are taken and torn and burnt away. So all of this is happening, and we're not imagining these stories. These are happening. The minute they feel that the child is going to go out of their control, they put every possible thing to bring it back under control, to make sure that the child doesn't make decisions that are not in consonance with what they want that child to do. So in this situation also, as an adult, if I am able to tell one teacher in my college or one senior person, I am able to say in my university through law that this person will take decisions about my life. One, though I don't understand why Indian universities have to call parents when adult students are not, not doing things as per what the university wants. So we find too many of these parental figures in schools, parental figures in police stations, parental figures in hospitals, who are all trying to work in our best interests, actually not understanding what our interests are. So, can this person also have the right to say that my parents are actually not understanding and are pushing me to do things that I don't want to do, and hence I don't want them to be the people to take decisions for me? Person X will be the person who will take decisions for me. So it's not only end of life, it's at many stages in our life when we are compromised in multiple ways to not state or
Sorry, I
that
think
I appoint
sorry, Chayanika, we've lost network.
hear me now.
Yeah, go on.
Okay. Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you. Yeah. But I agree
Yeah.
with you on all counts.
Yeah.
Unilaterally, I think it's absolutely important. We actually have, I'm just going to refer to a problem here that we have in the UK or in New Zealand where I stay. At the moment, I don't have access to anything about my children. If my child is not going to a doctor for a condition that I know they have, I cannot even call the doctor because he'll say, I'm sorry, they're above 18. So that also is detrimental. But I really, really hope that in India, we have, respect given to an adult who at the age of 18 to make their own decisions, which I know for a fact. My mother used to do that to me as well. And I'm sure most children would relate, all of us will probably relate to this, where our parents took charge of our life and took control of our life, not really realizing it was actually detrimental. And I actually like the point that you made that, and Rituparna also made that at 18, we are actually dependent. Most of us are dependent on our parents. So the moment they get to know of anything which is against the conformity of life, and they ostracize you, or they kick you out, we really have no one else to stand up for us. And I think a lot of people don't really understand, the challenges that our community actually faces in India. It is very, very, very deep rooted. On Rituparna, unless you want to add something, I'm going to take some comments and questions from the audience as well. Normally, in 40 minutes, I do. I forgot about the time. It was so engaging and interesting. Rituparna, कुछ add करना है आपको?
I think one thing just I want to add is that as an indigenous woman, I have realized that because I live in a community and my community is very, very important, one of the reasons it was very, very difficult for me to come out is that not just me, I will not just be punished, but my parents will also be penalized, not like harsh punishments, because indigenous people have do not in my part of the country we do not have very harsh punishments, but there are a lot of penalties that parents have to pay, and also I will be uprooted from my indigenous roots for who I am, and that is a huge loss, not just in terms of material
Yeah.
property, but just also of my cultural roots. And that is something that has haunted me, that still haunts me for who I am. And that's really big. That's a really big violence that I still face.
Sure.
Yeah.
See, this is real life, and this is what happens in our reality, And it's very sad. And Rituparna, I'm sure there are so many such stories. I'm not going. I don't even think in thousands, in millions actually. Just given the population that we have in India, and I'm really actually when you're talking about all these things, I'm just really feeling sad, and in a way, I'm thinking, gosh, I came out so late in my life. In a way, I was safeguarded because I don't know whether I would have had the courage or the strength to go through all the things that my younger generation is going through, which is actually quite sad because tragic. Because by this time, I thought we should have worked through all this, But, thanks to work, Rituparna, your work, and Chayanika, your work over decades, I think we are seeing that these conversations issues are actually happening. These conversations, we're actually being able to even talk. I don't even know, when I was reading Sharif's book, I have Sharif's book. He's a really dear friend of mine, Que Sapien, and I realized when he talks about it that most of us couldn't even have these conversations unless we were in a closed room. So we stayed closeted. So these conversations, the fact that you put in a petition, which is quite different to the other petitioners, I think it's a real, to me, India has progressed. That's the way I see it. We have hope, really, and we need more people like you, Chayanika, Rituparna, Malvika, who hopefully is watching, and Maya Sharma, and all the others who have petitioned. May I take some comments and questions? There's some interesting comments here. My Pride, Your Pride says, can a trans woman with a GRC marry a man, or a trans man with a GRC marry a woman in the current scenario? And I think the same question has been asked by someone else as well. Later, was it Anu Saxena? So yeah, who wants to take this question? This is an interesting question, actually.
So you actually get mixed opinions on this, and people are getting married. There's no doubt about that. A lot of people, some courts have said that yes, you can get married provided you have the gender, you have a man in your gender certificate, gender identity, or a woman. So your identity is within the binary, then yes, you can get married. But at some point, it was just that the identity should be man or woman. But recently, Bombay High Court gave a judgment on domestic violence, right? In which it said that unless you go through the surgery, you cannot be covered under the Domestic Violence Act. So you may have an identity woman, but because you've not gone through the surgery, you cannot be covered by the DV Act. So there are all these contradictions that will keep coming up, and every court will interpret this differently. We need directives on this as well. And I think this is one of the things that we've said in our petition is also a concern that there are cis people who've gotten into cishet marriages, right? And then one of these persons identifies different gender from the one that they were when they got into the marriage, right? So now this is, so if I was a cis man and now I say I'm a trans person, a genderqueer person, and I'm married to the cis woman, what happens to this relationship? How is this relationship recognized? Is this marriage still valid? Is a question that is already there before the courts. Right? There have been people, and there have been people who fought these cases. They fought divorces after this. So then they've argued over custody of children. So I don't think this is a settled issue. It is, when you can manage, you get married, yes. When you get into a dispute, that's when things will come up, which is what we are seeing in the DV Act.
Yes.
When the dispute came, then the question came that are you really a woman and should I cover you under the DV Act?
Yeah. I saw that recently as well doing the rounds, right? When somebody was in a similar situation. And these are the things, it's so complex. It's not that simple. And these days when there are modern marriages as well, there are modern relationships, two people getting married and then they separate, then they have the individual partners. One of the partners has come out gay or lesbian or trans, and then what happens? So it is very complex. I was on a show recently and on India TV, on one of the Indian television, national television, and two things happened. One, I was told that, this came to talk about medical emergencies. He said, why do you want to marry to have medical emergency, someone to make decisions on your behalf? If you fall on the road, the rickshawala will take you and he will make the decision for you. And I'm saying, but why would I want a rickshawala to make a decision for me when I have a partner? I'm legally married. I want my partner to make the decision. And they kept on. And I said, would you do that? Would you let a rickshawala make a decision if you're a married man to your wife? And he didn't have an answer. So that's one. I think it's the conditioning also. The conditioning, like Rituparna also you said earlier, two women, two men together is not taken seriously. इनका relationship नहीं है. That was one thing that came through, and there are so many other comments that were made on one television. I wasn't on that show, thankfully, because I don't think I would have taken that comment well. This lady kept on saying, "Do you know why why people have to marry? Do you know anything about marriage?" She kept on shouting, and then she said, "It is very simple. It's a license to procreate. It's a license to have children." This was on national TV in India, and I was thinking, how come people are actually not even talking against something like that? So this is the society mindset that we need to change. And every time I've gone on shows and talked about it, they tell me, you know, "Arey, LGBT is a small issue. We have bigger issues. We have like Rituparna, you were talking about domestic violence, and Chayanika, you were talking about domestic violence. And I have been often told, on this TV show saying, oh, what will happen if you get married, if you legalize your marriage, then what happens if there is domestic violence? Then what do we do? So we have to then have divorce laws. Why do you have to have separate laws? The same couple laws apply, right? And I don't know what's your view on that, Chayanika, Ritupurna.
So actually, if you look at the laws recognize marriage as a procreative act, right? You have to see that the who can marry whom. There is this whole thing of you can't marry close blood relatives, etc., written into law. There is impotency as a reason for making a marriage null and
Yeah,
void.
yeah.
So actually, the law also recognizes marriage as something that leads to procreation. There are multiple case laws in which you will hear that because she's not having sex with him, that she's doing cruelty on him. So all kinds of things that you don't recognize marital rape. So there are many ways in which law also reads marriage like that. It's not like only society reads it like that. Law also reads it like that. And then to come to the question of divorce laws, I think that in India, jurisprudence around divorce, around custody of children, etc., we've only seen in the situation of a cishet marriage, right? Where gender power is very clearly against the woman.
Yeah.
How this will translate in the situation of a couple that is, either the same gender or as a trans man and a cis woman with other complications of caste, class, age, etc., ability, all of this together is something that we cannot just, I would say that we cannot just take what happens in a cishet marriage and apply it here. We will have to work through this. We will have to work through how do divorces now happen if marriages happen. It is something that we'll have to work through. But that's
Sure.
a work that needs to be done. There's no running away from it. I mean, work on getting marriages recognized, getting maintenance recognized, getting all of that has been work that has happened in the last 75 years and more. So similarly, work will have to be done.
Sure. I'm going
That's
to read a couple of other comments. Rahul Sharma, thank you for joining us. Rahul says, interesting. I'm 50 today. When I was young, never had guts to, sorry, I'm fine, guts to say I'm gay. Got married to a woman, but fortunate when I opened to her, she was not only accepting but searched out and introduced me to the LGBTQ plus community. Fantastic. That's very powerful. And then he adds on. He just sent a message saying, "I was on WhatsApp group and got personal message, bloody gay. I just replied, thank you." So now this is our world, right? This is the world we live in. I don't know what to say, Rahul, because these days I'm just like, I'm just baffled with how why people want to spew so much of whatever conflict they have within them. There's no need to, and I'm sorry, Rahul, that you have to go through it. Anu Saxena says, "Ask and Ritupurna, maybe you can respond to this. Are there any legal ways someone of any sexual orientation can nominate chosen family for health financial decisions?" And thanks for the interesting conversation today. And you've had lots of messages thanking you both, by the way. So, and I
They
know
are
you're
not.
not a lawyer,
They
but
are
sorry.
not. No, they're not such as legal ways. But I think people are trying to find out legal ways to register or nominate someone. For example, you can actually do it in a like a stamp paper and say that I in case of emergency, in like a hundred rupee stamp paper and get it registered by the register, stamped by the register, and say that I would like to nominate this person as my as someone who will take decision on my behalf. And this is what Chanika was saying in terms for the mental health care act. We have this thing, so you can say that I have this thing, and I would like to nominate this thing. In terms of financial thing, on your bank account you can nominate anyone, and this is truth. If the bank manager tells you that you can't nominate anyone, get it written, get it signed by the bank manager, say that please write, get it stamped. You can file a petition, you can file a case. um, it is easily done. You can also make a medical insurance. um, in the name of your partner or in the name of a friend and nominate your friend. It's very easy. If they say they will not do it, get it say लिखित में देने के लिए, ask them to write why they are not giving it to you, get it stamped. So all you need to do not listen to them orally, ask them to give in writing. Say that give me in writing that you are not giving. So you can change all the nominations in your bank account to whoever you want them to be, and try it. Matlab, you can just try. Um, like for example, I tried to open a bank account, savings bank account with my partner, and I could do it. I in my on my past, like I have a home and my partner was living with me, and we didn't buy the home together, and the passport, and she had to get the passport in my home address, and the passport person said that you have to give a tenant letter, and I told him that no, she's not my tenant, she's my romantic and sexual partner. And he said, then he said, what? I said, she's my romantic and sexual partner, she's not my tenant, and also we have a joint saving bank account. You don't recognize us, what do I do? Then he said, give in writing. So I gave in writing, and she got the passport. I said, if you reject, you have to give me in writing, then I'll take it to the court. So I just try. We just try. And if you get rejected, I just think I'll take it to the court. That's what I think. There is no yes and no answer to your question. We can just try.
No, I think we need assertiveness, that's what it is, and challenge the system. I do that all the time as well. No answer, nothing is no. And then they don't have answers. And sadly, I think our system is such that everything is process driven. Only one person can do something, and then the paper moves from one to the other. So you can't even blame them. But yes, to challenge them and stand your ground is also important. Suneha Saha says, it was mentioned that a living will can be contested by family. Who all are defined as family? Very interesting question. Isn't that what we were talking about?
So
Chayanika.
by definition, family is the birth family if you're not married. If you're married, then it's your married partner and children or whoever come from there. But otherwise, by definition, family member will be whoever, parents, brother, sister. In the absence of parents, brother, sister, it could be uncles, it could be aunts, it could just go on like that. But they would want a blood family member to take the decision. And if there are more than one people, and I've seen this when my mother was going, both daughters had to agree that is something that the hospital insisted. So whoever they recognized as the survivors of this family, there were the two daughters, they had to give their written agreement to deciding that. So I think hospitals, especially private hospitals, are very particular. They don't want to get into any kind of legal hassles. They don't want anybody else coming and challenging them later. And so they will be very, very careful. They'll be very careful so that they don't get into legal tangles. They will not take that extra step. If you're in a public hospital, there they may not recognize. I mean, the kind of conversation that Ritu is saying, of saying that this is my romantic sexual partner and you recognize it, they will say, भैया हमारे पास टाइम नहीं है, आपका भाई बहन को ये उनको लेकर आओ, हम उससे तय कर लेंगे. Right? So this is, in both places you will have different challenges, but there will be a challenge to face. And this is, that's why it's called the de facto de jure family. That unless I opt out of it, and the only way to opt out of it today is marriage. That's
It's so interesting. I mean, like, I have faced this so much myself because my will has no power in India. One, because of my legal, like I said, lack of legal recognition. So automatically, not that I have anything, but if I had something, it would automatically go to my blood family, who have less said the better at this point. But any last words, because we've already run much over time. I'm also aware that you might be very tired with the intense conversation. But anything you'd like to say, Rituparna, please go ahead. And Chayanika, last few words before we say goodbye to our audience today. Okay. So Rituparna and Chayanika?
I think For me, it's always like keep challenging, and I feel like the queer perspective is not just falling in love with the person of the same gender and sleeping with the person of the same gender. Queer perspective is challenging structures and challenging what is called quote unquote normal, and collective work. I think that's what queer perspective is, and that's what we need to work towards.
Sure. Thank you. And you, Chayanika?
I'm sorry I didn't hear Ritu, but I shall just say that I think for me, I mean, whatever, whether our decision to join the petition was right, wrong, time will tell us. But the opportunity to have these conversations, I think it's very important. And in that sense, part of our work, and it's just four names that are featuring there, but there's a whole lot of people who are working together to make this happen and who are wanting this to happen. For all of us to be able to bring these conversations into a conversation on marriage equality is, I think, a achievement in itself, and that we should build on this further and make sure that our networks become strong enough to push administration to respond.
Fabulous. See, I see this similarly as well. I see this like I'm sitting here in London. Someone said to me, "Why don't you just sip on glass of wine and just relax, lead your, enjoy your semi-retired life?" And I see this as a privilege that I have come from nothing that a lot of people don't know. I come from the poorest of families. I have built a very simple life for myself here, but I am very privileged. I'm entitled. I feel that it is my time to give back. And if I can be the voice for some of us, why not? And that's why we created this platform. And for me, the fact that we can all sit here, some of the things I'm sure we don't agree with, and that's okay. That's okay. The fact that we can have conversations, we can have opinions, we can have agreements and disagreements, and
Yeah.
show respect towards each other. To me, that is what our community is all about. And I want our community to remember that, not ruled by division. Come together, collaborate, because this is our fight together, and we have to win this fight collectively together, not one person, all of us together. So, on that note, I want to thank you all, both of you, Rituparna and Chayanika. It was such a pleasure. Rituparna and Chayanika, we're going to get you back because there are certain things you said I think will flow very well into one of the other shows that I'm curating as well. And with your permission, I'll come back to you. And our
Sure. We
audience,
love
thank you very
talking.
we can say that. So do I. Call me on your show as well. and thank
Thank
you
you,
very
Raga,
much.
for this.
Thank
This
you.
was a
Thank
lovely
you.
Yes.
conversation.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you,
And
Raga.
I must thank our partners as well because we've got a few partners who've always helped us. There's a Gay Indian Network. They are UK based and we are a member of that. This Lotus Visual and Digital Partners, Digital Fix, who do all our social media. And of course, we have to thank Nicola, without whom I wouldn't even be sweating so much, the producer of Newsroom. And our audience, thank you so much. Come back, keep watching, keep sharing, keep giving your feedback. This conversation was one of the most important conversations we've had. Please share this amongst all your network. We need to support each other. And if you wish to take part in our show or to share feedback, please do write to us at theviewsroom@gmail.com and watch me on youtube.com. What is it called? Whatever. YouTube at Totally Out Now. Thank you very much. See you all.